the biology class mix-up. Zarel sat in the third row of the intergalactic biology hall, her smooth purple fingers tapping the edge of her tablet. Her eyes glowed softly as she stared at the large hologram spinning in front of the class, a diagram of reproductive systems from across the galaxy. Today's topic was species reproduction. Most students looked bored. They had studied these things before. Every species had its own method: cloning, bonding, energy splitting, spore planting, and so on. But one student sat quietly at the edge of the class, listening carefully. His name was Eli, the only human in the academy. Zarel had noticed him before: quiet, polite, always reading alone. No glowing skin, no tail, no antennae, just plain, small, soft-looking. Some students even joked he was unfinished. But today, Zarel looked at him with wide eyes, because when the professor said, "Now we discuss human reproduction," the entire class turned toward Eli. He froze in his seat. The professor, a floating AI core named Vex 7, continued. Unlike most species here, humans reproduce through physical bonding involving close contact and shared emotion. Their reproduction is both biological and emotional. Zarel raised her hand immediately. "Yes, Cadet Zarel," the professor asked. "Wait, what?" she said, loud and confused. "They touch each other physically? That's it?" Eli's face turned red. Some students chuckled. Zarel kept going. And they choose this connection just based on feelings? No pheromone contracts? No telepathic synchronization? No permission rituals? Vex 7 replied, "That is correct. For humans, emotional connection plays a critical role in forming reproduction bonds. It's personal." Zarel's head tilted. "So it's random?" Eli finally spoke, his voice low but calm. "It's not random, it's complicated." Now, the whole class was looking at him. Zarel narrowed her eyes, completely fascinated. "Humans really do that?" "Yes," Eli replied. Her next question silenced the entire room. "Can I try?" The room froze. Even Vex 7 buzzed awkwardly. Eli blinked. "Try what?" Zarel looked innocent. "Your human reproduction." Several students burst into laughter. A few gasped. Eli held up his hands. "Whoa, it doesn't work like that." Zarel frowned. "Why not? I'm curious. For science." The professor quickly changed the subject. Moving on to aquatic bonding systems. But Zarel wasn't done. She kept staring at Eli. Not in a teasing way, but as if he were a puzzle. A strange, soft, emotional puzzle. After class, Eli walked down the long hallway toward the library. He kept his head low, hoping no one would bother him, but he heard light footsteps behind him. It was Zarel. She caught up to him quickly. "You walk so slow. Is that part of your biology, too?" Eli sighed. "Look, about what you said back there." Zarel cut him off. "I didn't mean to embarrass you. I'm just amazed. You mean your species bonds through feelings? That sounds dangerous." Eli chuckled nervously. "Sometimes it is." She walked beside him now. "How do you know when it's real?" "You don't," he said honestly. "Sometimes you think it's real and it's not. Sometimes it hurts." Zarel looked thoughtful. "In my species, we never bond until the emotion is proven first. Our minds connect before our bodies do." "That sounds safer," Eli admitted. "But maybe not deeper," she said. He glanced at her. She was serious. No smirk. No joke. Zarel looked up at him. "I don't want to reproduce, not in your way. But I want to understand what it means to feel like a human. What it means to choose someone, not because your species says so, but because you say so." Eli didn't know what to say. No one had ever asked him that before. That night in her room, Zarel sat under a soft starlight lamp scrolling through human articles. She watched old Earth movies, listened to songs, read stories of people falling in love, bonding through trust, touch, and emotion. Her antenna twitched. She had never thought about bonding like this before. No sensors, no charts, just two hearts choosing each other, and she kept thinking about Eli. Across the station, Eli lay on his bunk staring at the ceiling. This was the weirdest day of his life, and yet, some part of him wasn't laughing. Some part of him wondered what it meant that an alien girl asked, not for his body, but for his understanding. Zirel's curiosity grows. Zirel didn't sleep much after that class. Her mind kept spinning like a faulty gravity ring. She replayed Eli's words again and again in her head. You don't always know when it's real. Sometimes it hurts. Those phrases were more confusing than any star map. On her planet, bonds were made with data. You filled out an emotion sheet, matched energy waves, and waited for approval. It was simple, logical, safe. But humans, they connected with feelings, and that fascinated her. The next morning, Zirel downloaded 2 entire Earth libraries. One was called Romance Novels, the other, How Humans Date. She read while eating her energy fruit. Her eyes grew wider with every page. He touched her hand gently and sparks flew between them. They stood under the rain, not speaking, but everything was said. Zirel blinked. Rain doesn't talk. Do humans really feel like this from just holding? Later, she waited near Eli's usual spot in the study zone. When he arrived, she waved him over. He looked nervous. You're not going to ask about reproduction again, right? Zirel shook her head. No, this time, I have research. Eli sighed. That somehow sounds worse. She held up her tablet. I've studied how humans form bonds. You date. He raised a brow. We also eat breakfast and complain about everything. Zirel scrolled. Dating involves learning each other, feeling each other. No genetic scans, no approval from elders, just 2 people talking. That's part of it, Eli said. Slowly, so let's try it. Eli coughed. Wait, what? Dating, she said firmly. Not for reproduction, just experience, for science. He stared at her. Zirel, dating isn't just a science test. It's emotional. It means something. Zirel tilted her head. Then I want to understand that meaning. Later that evening, they sat across from each other in a small corner cafe, the only place on the station that served Earth tea. Zirel wore a plain gray jumpsuit but had painted a strange blue circle on her forehead. Eli blinked. What's that? A symbol, she said proudly. I read humans wear marks on special days. This is my date signal. He tried not to laugh. It's nice. They sipped tea quietly. Zirel watched other couples nearby. One held hands. Another leaned close and whispered. She looked down at her hands, then at Eli's. Without asking, she reached across the table and lightly touched his fingers. He froze. Zirel tilted her head. Did sparks fly? Eli chuckled. Not exactly, but it's warm. She smiled softly. Warm is good? Yeah, he said. Warm is good. Over the next few days, Zirel became strange. She followed Eli to class, walked beside him without speaking, and sometimes stared at his hands like they held ancient secrets. She even tried mimicking human habits. She gave him a tiny rock because she read that humans give gifts. She waited outside his room holding a cup of soup. She once said, I like your walking pattern. Eli didn't know whether to feel flattered or alarmed. One afternoon, she appeared with a box. I made this, she said. He opened it, and inside was a lopsided sculpture of something. It's you, she said. I look like a melted drone, he replied. She smiled. It's abstract. Earth art is confusing. Eli laughed, really laughed. Okay, now that is accurate. Later that evening, they walked through the garden dome. Artificial stars shone above. Zirel looked up, then at Eli. I think I understand something, she said. What's that? Bonding isn't about organs or rules. It's about being wanted, right? Eli looked at her. Yeah, it's when someone chooses to stay close, even when they don't have to. She was quiet for a moment. Then she whispered, I've never been chosen. Eli looked at her gently. You're not hard to choose, Zirel. She looked at him. really looked, and in that moment something unspoken passed between them. Not sparks, not science, just warmth, the permission debate. Zarel sat on the floor of her meditation pod, her eyes closed but her mind racing. She wasn't supposed to feel this way. Not about a human, not about anyone outside her species. That's what she was taught since hatch day. Bonding is sacred. Cross-species links cause confusion. Your heart belongs to your kind. But then why? Did being near Eli feel like safety? Why did his smile soften her chest like moonlight warming stone? And why did her glow change color the first time he held her hand? The next day, a message appeared on her tablet. Summoned. High circle of Valari elders. Immediate attendance required. She didn't panic. She didn't have to. She already knew what this was about. The elder chamber glowed dimly, built like a circle of floating chairs with pale mist below. 12 wise Valari, her own people, sat in silence as Zarel stepped into the center. The lead elder, Maren, spoke first. "You've been observed," he said slowly. "With the human boy?" Zarel bowed her head. "His name is Eli." "We are not interested in names," another elder said coldly. "We are interested in influence," Elder Maren continued. "You are showing signs of emotional frequency disruption, increased skin glow, mood shifts, sleep irregularities." Zarel replied, "That's normal for humans. And now, it's normal for me too." A sharp silence followed. "You know the law," Maren said. "No emotional engagement without telepathic clearance." Zarel took a slow breath. "I didn't ask permission, because I didn't expect to feel this." "That is exactly why the rules exist," another elder shouted. "Human emotional bonds are dangerous, messy, loud. They do not follow energy flow or balance, they burn." "But they're real," Zarel said calmly. "And they're honest." The room stirred. "You are ordered to disconnect," Maren said. "Immediately, before the link deepens." That night, Zarel didn't sleep. She sat in the station garden, alone. Eli found her there, sitting by the glowvines. "You okay?" he asked. "No," she said softly. She told him everything, the meeting, the warning, the threat. Eli listened, quiet and serious. "They said you're dangerous," she said. He gave a small laugh. "They're not wrong." She looked at him. "Do you think I'm making a mistake?" Eli's voice was gentle. "That's not my choice, but I know this. Real feelings don't always follow permission." Zarel's eyes filled with something new. Fear. "What if I lose my place in my people?" Eli replied. "Then maybe you build a new place, one that makes you feel like you belong." She stared at him. "You would help me do that?" He smiled softly. "I already am." The next morning, Zarel returned to the elder chamber. She stood taller this time. "I choose to continue the bond," she said clearly. "Not for science, not for rebellion, but because I finally feel something worth keeping." The elders whispered among themselves. One asked, "Are you saying this is love?" Zarel nodded. "Maybe. Maybe not yet. But it's close. And if you remove that, you're not protecting me, you're limiting me." Elder Maren sat quietly for a long time, then he said, "Then you leave us no choice." Zarel was placed under emotional observation. She wasn't banished, but she was no longer trusted. Some friends stopped talking to her, others looked at her like a strange light in a familiar hallway. But none of it mattered, because Eli stayed. One night they sat in the dim library. Zarel leaned against his shoulder. "I'm no longer allowed to bond in the Valari way," she said. "Then bond the human way," Eli replied. "No rituals, no rules, just two people choosing." She looked up at him. "What if I choose you?" He smiled. "Then I'm already chosen." A test of trust. The Academy's central dome buzzed with tension. A rare announcement had been posted on every student terminal. Cross-species emotional link simulation, voluntary trial. Chosen pair, human, Eli Holt, Valari, Zirel. Test begins tomorrow. Zirel stared at the message. Her glow dimmed slightly. It wasn't really voluntary. The elders wanted proof. If she failed, they would declare her emotionally compromised and cut off all bonds with Eli. She didn't tell him that. Eli read the message, then looked at her. You okay with this? Zirel smiled gently. I want to show them what they missed. The simulation chamber was deep beneath the academy. It was built for trust exercises, used by military teams and diplomatic partners. The system created emotional echoes, designed to trigger fear, hope, memory, and vulnerability. If a bond between two minds was real, it would hold. If not, it would break. Inside, they were scanned and placed in a shared dream state. Relax, said the AI tech. You'll wake up only if one of you gives up. They lay down side by side. Lights dimmed. Simulation began. Zirel opened her eyes. She stood on a cold, empty hill under a dark sky. Winds howled through silver grass. She turned and saw Eli, but he was far away. Between them, a long canyon cracked through the ground, wide and deep. It pulsed with red light. Then a voice echoed through the wind. To reach him, you must jump. She shook her head. That's impossible. It is if the bond is false. She looked at Eli. He wasn't calling her. He wasn't moving. He was waiting. In Eli's mind, the world was different. He stood in an earth-like room, broken and burned. Old memories surrounded him. His parents' quiet voices, the smell of rain, the weight of loneliness. He saw Zirel behind a glass wall. She reached for him, but couldn't cross. The wall whispered his fears. She doesn't really understand you. She only wants to study you. She'll leave when curiosity fades. He closed his eyes. But then, he remembered her voice from the garden. What if I choose you? He opened his eyes and pressed his hand against the glass. Back in Zirel's vision, the wind grew stronger. The canyon shook. She took a step forward, then stopped. This wasn't about leaping. It was about trust. She closed her eyes and said, softly, I choose to fall, if it means falling with you. Then she jumped. The world flashed white. When the simulation ended, Zirel and Eli woke up at the same time. They were holding hands, not planned, not staged, just natural. The AI system buzzed. Emotional link, verified, connection stable across species lines. No corruption, no distortion. The staff watched silently. One instructor muttered, impossible. There's never been a stable bond between a human and a Valari. But the proof was there. It wasn't a test anymore. It was real. Later in the garden, Zirel sat beside Eli once. Again, no elders, no teachers, no rules, just sky, leaves, and peace. That was strange, Eli said. I saw memories I didn't want to see. Zirel nodded. I saw a fall I didn't think I could make. But we didn't run, he added. No, she said softly. We reached. Eli looked at her. Does this mean we're bonded? Zirel laughed. Maybe, or maybe this is just the beginning. She stood, stretched her arms, then turned to him. There's something human I want to try, she said. Eli raised a brow. Uh-oh, what is it now? She stepped forward and gently rested her forehead against his. No reason, no ritual, she whispered. Just closeness. Eli smiled. I'd call that a hug. Zirel closed her eyes. Then yes, I want a hug. For real this time. The backlash. The test result spread across the station like a solar flare. Confirmed, first stable emotional bond between human and Valari. Some celebrated, others did not. On the Valari networks, scholars argued it was a system error. Elders insisted it was just a temporary link caused by emotional infection. Worse, some began accusing Eli. He manipulated her with human closeness. He caused glow shift to confuse her instincts. He did this to gain influence over Valari trust systems. Zarel watched it all unfold from her room, her glow flickering with frustration. They weren't asking her what she felt. They were just blaming him. That evening, her family sent a private message. Not kind, not warm, just instructions. Break the connection. Return home. We will schedule a cleansing ritual. Zarel stared at the words. Return to what? To rules? To silence? To pretending she didn't already feel more alive than ever before? No. She went straight to Eli's quarters. He was sitting by the window looking out at the stars. She walked in without asking. They want me to leave, she said. He didn't turn. I figured. They think I'm confused. He gave a tired smile. Are you? She stepped forward. No. Eli finally turned toward her. Then what do we do? Zarel took a deep breath. We show them, not with proof, not with scans, but by living together. His eyebrows rose. Together? Yes, she said. I'm not going back to hiding. The next morning they arrived hand in hand at the Central Station dome. Dozens of aliens passed by. Many staring, some whispering. Zarel didn't flinch. Eli didn't let go. They ate together at the public cafe. They walked through the bio-gardens, laughing softly at strange earth plants that grew sideways. When a reporter drone floated by, Zarel didn't turn away. She looked straight into it and said, "This isn't an experiment, this is a choice." Back in the Valari chamber, Elder Maren scowled. They're forcing this, making a show of it. Another elder asked, "Should we exile her?" Maren shook his head. Too public, but we can send a message. He pressed a button. A message was sent. To the station council. That night, Eli received an urgent alert. Notice: human cadet Eli Holt is to be removed from the Valari sector of the academy, effective immediately. He read it 3 times, then looked up. Zarel stood in the doorway holding the same message. They want you gone, she whispered. Eli leaned back. What else is new? She sat beside him, silent for a long time. Then she said, "What if we leave?" "Leave the academy?" he asked. "No," she said. "Leave the system. There are other stations, places where bonds aren't monitored, like weapons." He looked at her for a long time. "You'd go that far?" She nodded slowly. "You're worth crossing galaxies for." Eli laughed softly. "That's the most romantic thing anyone's ever said to me." But the next morning, something unexpected happened. Students began gathering outside the council hall, quietly at first, then in groups. Valari, humans, others. Some held signs. Some just stood, watching. A quiet protest. Let them choose. Feeling is not a crime. Trust is stronger than fear. Inside the council hall, the elders argued. "We can't control the station's opinion anymore," one said. Maren stood at the window, watching the silent crowd. "They want to believe in something real," he muttered. That night, the removal order was withdrawn. No apology, no explanation, just canceled. Eli and Zarel sat on the rooftop garden in silence, watching the stars. "So we won?" he asked. Zarel shook her head. "No, we reminded them." "Of what?" She smiled. "That some bonds are not made by law. They're made by hearts." The first emotional bond. The Valari rarely used the ancient bond ritual anymore. It was old, quiet, sacred, meant only for those who had proven they could open their inner light to another, fully and without fear. No human had ever been allowed near it, until now. Zarel stood barefoot in the heart chamber, an echoing dome filled with silver, fog. The floor was smooth stone. The walls pulsed with soft blue light, and at the center a glowing pillar rose from the ground, the crystal of truth. It had only one purpose: to reveal the real bond between 2 living souls. If the bond was fake, the crystal would dim. If it was one-sided, it would shatter. But if it was real, it would glow with a new light, a rare signal that only the heart could create. Eli stood beside her, nervous but steady. He had no idea what would happen. Valari customs were still a mystery to him. He only knew one thing. He trusted her. Elder Maren stood before them. "You both understand," he said slowly. "Once you place your hands on the crystal, you cannot lie. You cannot run, you cannot hide." Zirel nodded. Eli took a breath. "We're not hiding." The elder stepped back. "Begin." Together they stepped forward. The crystal hummed. Zirel placed her left hand on it. Eli placed his right. At first, nothing. Just silence, then the mist began to swirl. Colors shifted, violet and gold, blue and green. The crystal warmed beneath their hands. Suddenly their memories flooded the space around them, projected like living echoes. Eli helping Zirel paint a human mural. Zirel holding Eli's hand in the rain dome. The way. They looked at each other in the simulation. The moment she said, "What if I choose you?" The elders watched in silence. The crystal pulsed once, twice, then glowed. But not just normal glow, a new color, one never seen before, a warm blend of earth sunlight and Valari skyshine. Even Maren took a step back. "What is that?" he whispered. Zirel didn't speak. She closed her eyes and felt it, Eli's emotions blending with hers. Not controlled, not forced, just shared. He wasn't a scientist, she wasn't a rebel. They were just two being, connected. The ritual ended. The crystal dimmed, but the light stayed in the room, floating softly between them. Proof, truth, love. Afterward, the council chamber was quiet. Elder Maren cleared his throat. "In the history of our kind," he said, "this bond is unique." He looked at Zirel, then at Eli. "You may continue." Together. Under our observation, no longer. Zirel bowed her head respectfully. "Thank you." But Eli said nothing. He just reached for her hand, and she took it, in front of everyone, without fear, without permission, just because she wanted to. News of the ritual spread fast. Some called it a miracle, others a mistake. But those who saw the light really saw it, knew it wasn't science or chance. It was real. Later that night, Zirel and Eli walked to their favorite bench near the crystal garden. The stars above were clear. The wind was soft. She leaned her head on his shoulder. "That light," she whispered. "It was us." Eli nodded. "The color no one had ever seen." Zirel smiled. "Maybe that's what happens when two different worlds truly understand each other." He looked at her. "Are you scared anymore?" She shook her head. "No." "Are you?" he answered. "Not when I'm with you." "Can I try being human?" Days passed since the bond ritual. Zirel and Eli no longer walked in secret shadows. They didn't hide their connection. They didn't need to explain anymore. Wherever they went, cafes, classes, gardens, some stared, yes. But others smiled. A human and a Valari. Not broken, not confused, just together. One afternoon, they sat beneath the glow vines in the garden dome, drinking warm tea. The leaves above shimmered in soft colors as artificial sunlight drifted through the air. Zirel leaned back, watching small children from different species chase floating lights. "They're so free," she said softly. "No fear, no rules, just feeling." Eli nodded. "We forget how to do that when we grow up." She looked at him. "But you didn't forget." He smiled. "Maybe you helped me remember." There was a long pause, a comfortable silence. Then, Zirel looked down at her hands. "I've been thinking," she said. Eli turned to her. "Uh-oh, that usually means something big." She smiled slightly, but her tone was serious. "I don't want to become human," she said carefully. "I'm proud to be Valari. I don't want to trade who I am." "I never asked you to," Eli replied. I know, she said. She paused again. But I want to understand you more. I want to feel like you feel. Just once. I want to know what it's like. Not in my head. Not with charts. Just real. She looked into his eyes. Can I try being human? Eli blinked. Not because he didn't understand, but because the question meant more than words. He didn't rush to answer. He just reached forward, gently took her hand, and nodded. You already are, he said. Zarel tilted her head. What do you mean? Eli smiled. Being human isn't about biology. It's not about skin or organs or even blood. It's about choosing others over fear. About feeling something real and not running from it. She stared at him, and suddenly, her glow brightened, calm and golden like the sun after rain. That night, they didn't go to a big hall. There were no crowds, no ceremony, just them. They walked quietly through the empty station corridor. Zarel wore a simple tunic. Eli wore his usual jacket. They found an old Earth-style music player, connected it to the system, and played something soft. Then, no instructions, no reason, Eli held out his hand. Want to try another human thing? He asked. Zarel raised a brow. What now? Dancing, she laughed. I read about that. It's not logical. It's not supposed to be, he said. She placed her hand in his. And together they moved slowly. Not perfectly, not traditionally. Just honestly. After a while, she rested her head against him. Eli? Yeah? I never expected this. Me? Neither. But I'm glad I asked. He smiled, eyes soft. I'm glad you stayed. Later, as they watched the stars from their usual bench, Zarel whispered, They all thought bonding between us was impossible. Eli nodded. And now? They've seen it. Do you think they'll believe? She smiled. They don't have to. He raised an eyebrow. Why not? Because I believe, she said. And that's enough. Their story wasn't written in rules or rituals. It wasn't blessed by tradition or confirmed by scans. It was made from quiet moments, from small smiles, from questions like, can I try? And answers like, you already are.